All right, to me, this is the most interesting part of biology. That's why I have a degree in this, because there's so many different things. Right? There's so many different types of microorganisms, and just the fact that we can't see them, but we know they're here, makes it very interesting to me. That there could be 1 million microorganisms in this room right now, and you can't see any of them. Knowing that they're there, though. All right, so prokaryotes. Those two domains of bacteria, archaebacteria and eubacteria, the domains, archaea and bacteria. These are all our no nucleus, no organelle organisms. Okay? Both single-celled prokaryotes. This is actually two right here. There's one right there, one there. There's another one right here. Each of those little cylinder-shaped things is an organism. It seems kind of odd that something that tiny, that small, that simple could be its own organism, but it is. Okay. They are everywhere. As I said, there could be 1 million different ones in this room right now. We have 3 different shapes. We'll talk about those shapes in a minute. Some of them use oxygen. Others don't need oxygen. Some have to have it or they die. Others, they can or can't. That's what makes these organisms so diverse. They are all different. You can take out all the oxygen in the room and some of these bacteria can still live. You can turn the temperature down to -50. Some of them will still live. You can crank it up to 300 degrees in here. Some of them will still live. That's what makes them so interesting, at least to me. All right. Come in 3 shapes. We call them round ones. These are spherical. All right. Those are the prefix or the suffix you see on the name is cocci, C-O-C-C-I or C-O-C-C-U-S. So staphylococcus causes staph infection. Those are round bacteria. The middle one are rod-shaped. We call those bacillus-shaped. E. coli is a spherical or a rod-shaped bacteria. The last one is spiral. You can see why. It almost looks like a little worm. Okay, those are Spirilia. So you got Coccus, Bacillus, and Spirilia are your 3 shapes that these organisms come in. We identify a lot by the shape. Similar structure. This is a big word. Either star it, highlight it, whatever in your notes. A plasmid. Plasmid is their DNA, but it's circular DNA. What does our DNA look like? 2 strands twisted up together. Do the ends connect? No. For bacteria, it's one single loop, one single circle of DNA. All right, we call that a plasmid. Flagellum, we talked about that already. That's that whip-like tail that helps them move. Some of them have that. Pili is similar to cilia, which we talked about, cilia being the little hairs. Pili are the same thing, little hairs that stick off the sides of them. Some bacteria have those, that's the way they move. All right, they can actually use those pili to crawl along on things. They all have ribosomes. Every organism has ribosomes. What do we need ribosomes for? To make what? Protein. Every organism needs protein. That's what DNA is made of, what RNA is made of. Every organism has ribosomes then. Right. So here's a little cross section of a bacteria. You see the DNA inside. It's just floating around inside there. If we took that DNA out of that bacteria, it'd be one long circle of DNA. Okay. They have cell walls. There's our pili, the little hairs, and then our long flagellum. Okay. Not that complicated of an organism. They have differences. We know this one. This is one of our main identifying differences. Which one has peptidoglycan? Eubacteria. Archaebacteria don't. That's a big, major difference between the two domains and the two kingdoms. All right. This is how we determine what type of bacteria you're looking at. We use gram stain. If you go to the doctor and you're sick, they're going to take some of your blood. If they find bacteria in there, they're going to use this to determine what type of bacteria so they know what type of antibiotic to give you. Because does every antibiotic work on every bacteria? No, every medicine doesn't work on everything. So they have to determine what's what before they can give you medicine for it. All right? Notice that this peptidoglycan is really big and thick. This one's small. Do they still have it? This is eubacteria. This is archaebacteria. Do they still have peptidoglycan? Do they have the orange layer? But can we see it? If we stain this with a certain dye, is it ever going to reach this level, or is it protected by something else? It's protected, all right? This one isn't, so it gets stained. It turns color. They both have it, but when we look at them, we don't see the little thin, little bitty layer of it in the archaebacteria, okay? So we say archaebacteria do not have it in their cell wall, even though they do have a little bitty thin layer of it. It's just it's not identifiable when you're thinking about a microorganism. Okay? This is another fun fact about bacteria, how they survive, how they reproduce. Do they need a partner? No, they do it themselves. All right? We call that binary fission. They reproduce asexually. Asexually means they don't need a partner. One bacteria turns into two, two turns into four, four turns into 16, and that happens very fast. Right? That's how you can be fine one day and really sick the next day, because it might multiply that fast. When you give them a food source and a place to live, your body, they multiply fast. Right? One can turn into 1 million overnight, and that's what makes you real sick real fast. Okay? The copies are all identical. They are splitting themselves and making two that look exactly identical. They're so identical that when this happens, you can't tell which one was the first one, which one was the original. They are that close, or that identical to each other. Okay? Conjugation is what makes it hard for us to fight them off. Right? Bacteria are constantly changing. These organisms, they don't seem very complex, but they change. Right? They change through conjugation. And so we see several different bacterial cells here. And we see these little tube-looking things going from cell to cell, from organism to organism. What they're doing is they're exchanging genes. All right? If one bacteria is immune to whatever antibiotic you put in your body, he knows how to survive. He's going to survive. What's he going to tell the rest of them? How to survive. And that's what this is, in a sense. They're going to swap genes because these genes are needed to survive. Okay? Not a complex organism, no brain in there, but does it seem like they know what they're doing? It seems like they know I can survive, so I'm going to help my other friend over here survive by giving him some genes and telling him this is what you need to survive in this environment. All right? Makes sense? All right, some bacteria cause disease. We know this. They release toxins into the organism, whatever they're in. Those toxins do not hurt the bacteria. It's just the bacteria's waste. But their waste can be poisonous to us and other creatures. Can be deadly, and we consider it a poison. Like I said, it's just their number one, number two. They get rid of their waste, but it's toxic to us. It's poison to us. Okay. So if you look, the blue section You see the bluish purple color? That's the bacteria. So there's one bacteria. There's another one right down here. See all the red? That's its waste. That's the toxins that it's producing and releasing into whatever organism it's in. All right? If you have millions of these little guys, they don't reproduce, they've split in half and half and half and half and made more, how much toxin is being released into your body then? All right? A lot. And it's hard to get rid of that. That's why you stay sick for a while. What can we do to prevent this or to get rid of it? You get bacterial infection, what can you do? You go to the doctor, what's the doctor do? He identifies what type of bacteria it is, and he gives you antibiotics. All right? Antibiotics are used to fight a bacterial disease. Have you ever gone to the doctor and they don't give you antibiotics? Yeah, there's a reason why, and we'll talk about that coming up. Antibiotics don't work on everything. Okay? What they do is they keep, when the bacteria go to do binary fission, they go to split and make two, antibiotics keep the bacteria from making a cell wall. Well, if it doesn't have a cell wall, what happens? Yeah, it can't reproduce because there's nothing to hold it in. It just all goes everywhere, and then your body gets it out as waste. So that antibiotic breaks down that cell wall, does not allow the cell wall to form during binary fission. Antibiotics do not work on viruses. You get the flu, can they give you antibiotic? No. All right. Antibiotics only work on living things. Viruses are not alive. And we'll look at that later on this week or next week. Prevention is the best method to fight it. It means things like if you leave food laying out for a long period of time, should you eat it? No, because things get on it. Bacteria gets on it, right? After or when you go to lunch later today, what should you do before you go in there? Yeah, because how many things have you touched between when you woke up and when you eat lunch? A lot. That desk right now is covered in bacteria. Most of them won't hurt you. But the odds of there being one or two bacteria on there that can hurt you are pretty great. And it gets on your hand gets on your sandwich goes in your mouth. Where's the bacteria go? It's in you. Okay? Prevention is the best method. Take care of yourself. All right? You get a cut. How many of you just wipe it off and leave it there? And don't mess with it. That's an open wound for anything to get in. Later on, a few days later, it turns really, really red, starts hurting. Guess what? You've got an infection now. Something got into that cut. You're going to have to go get some medicine to kill it. Okay? If you would have taken the time at the beginning to clean it, dress it, all that, wouldn't have happened. Okay? Prevention's the best cure. Bacteria can evolve resistance to antibiotics. We talked a little bit last week about penicillin. Do doctors give penicillin anymore?
Yeah.
No. Straight penicillin does not work anymore because bacteria have evolved to not allow that to hurt them. All right? Now we have derivatives of it, amoxicillin, erythromycin, all these different drugs. Guess what? Eventually what happens to them? They go away and we have a whole new antibiotic. And it's a constant change. All right? Remember we talked about coevolution, where two things evolve together? That you think of the same thing, antibiotics and bacteria. They evolve together because as the bacteria evolves with the antibiotic, we have to change the antibiotic to meet the change of the bacteria. Okay? Must be used properly. This is a funny one. All right? And I'm going to show you. No overuse, which means if they give you a 10-day supply of antibiotics, which is usually the norm, 5 or 10, don't take 10 days and say, you know what, Mom has another bottle of this, I need to take a little bit more to make sure I'm not sick anymore. You put more than you need in your body, what does all the bacteria in your body do? The more they see it, they know what it looks like, they evolve. All right, so that's why you don't overuse it. No misuse, meaning just because you get sick, don't go take antibiotics. Do you know what's causing you to be sick? Is it bacteria? Is it a virus? You don't know. You have a virus and you take all these antibiotics, all the bacteria that are in you are going to do what? They evolve. They evolve to know that antibiotic, it's not going to hurt me next time. This is the big one. Do not underuse. How many of you have gotten sick, went to the doctor gives you a 10-day supply, or gives you one of those Z-packs, where you take so many each day for so many days? Ever seen those? Where you punch them out, and there's like 5 the first day, 3 the second day, and then you get to about the 3rd day, and you're feeling great, and you quit taking them. You have to run the whole course to make sure, because how many bacteria does it take to make you sick again? 1. If 1 survived, it's a process that's going to start all over again, and you've already used that antibiotic. What's the odds that bacteria knows what that antibiotic is now? All right. So you've got to run use exactly as prescribed. Right? There's a reason why the doctor prescribes you a certain amount for a certain amount of days. It's because that's the tested amount that's been done in the lab over and over again on these bacteria, and that's the amount that has to be there to wipe them all out and not have that evolution of the bacteria. Okay. They can be beneficial. We've talked a little bit about this. They live in our guts. All right. Your intestines are full of bacteria. Do we need them? Yeah, we have to have them. If we don't have them, our food doesn't get digested. We don't get the nutrients out of the food that we need. Do we survive? No. The main one in our intestines is E. coli. It's in your intestines. It breaks down your food. Where some of it comes out when you go number 2. Okay? There was a anywhere else in your body, I've said this before, anywhere else in your body, E. coli is deadly. In your intestines, it's fine. You ingest it, it will kill you. Okay? There was an outbreak, it was probably about 10 or 12 years ago in California. They had 25 people died from E. coli poisoning. They traced their origins back of where they had been, and every single one of those people had ate at the same Taco Bell on the same day. What happened?
They poisoned it.
One cook went to the bathroom and did not wash his hands afterwards. Went back and made all those people's food. E. coli anywhere else in the body is deadly. In his intestines, it was fine. What do you do after you use the restroom? Wash your hands. Okay? Cost 20, I can't remember, 20, 25 people their lives because he didn't wash his hands. Okay? We also use them to make vitamins inside your body. Those intestines break down the foods you put in and basically pull the vitamins out of the food for you to have. Okay? I already said break down food. We've talked about niches. They have a role. They're supposed to be there. They live there. All right. Here is E. coli, found in your intestines. Imagine right now you've got millions of those little guys crawling around in your guts. Anybody feel a little itchy, a little tingly? All right. Oh, bacteria also help make foods that you love. First one, yogurt. How many of you like yogurt? Know how it's made? They take milk They add two, we did this in college, you add two types of bacteria, two specific types of bacteria to that milk. You add heat. Those bacteria react with each other and with the milk and change the milk into yogurt. Basically, their waste product is what you eat.
Yeah.
When it gets to a certain degree, the bacteria die, you're left with the yogurt. All right. Some of our cheeses are made from bacteria. Some are made from fungus. We'll talk about that when we get to fungi. Here's some of our cheeses. This one right here is made from a fungus. This one and this one are made from bacteria. This large block of Parmesan is made from black bacteria. All right. Told you, if you knew where half the things you eat come from, you wouldn't eat them. I don't care. I got E. coli in me already, so why not eat some more? Pickles, sauerkraut, all made from bacteria. Bacteria have to be in there for that fermentation process to happen. Fermentation means a souring process. All right, that's what that is. Sauerkraut and pickles are both sour things. They make that brine water, that salt water, turn the cucumber into a pickle. All right. Soy sauce and vinegar have to have bacteria to make those. All right. There's a bunch of other things we use bacteria for. Buttermilk. Trying to think of some others. It's used for a variety of things, and it's used for fermentation. It's also used to make some alcoholic beverages. Fermentation of beer, use bacteria to do that. Okay. We need them. We need them for a lot of things. All right. Not just in us or in foods, but also in the environment. We talked about this when we talked about the cycles. What about that nitrogen cycle? What do we need underground on those plant roots? We need bacteria. All right. We have some bacteria that do photosynthesis. They're more evolved than we are. They can make their own food. All right. Carbon cycle, nitrogen, hydrogen, sulfur, bacteria are involved in all of those processes, all of those cycles. Mainly the nitrogen cycle, turning those nitrites that are in the ground into nitrates that the plants can use, which we can eat or we can get oxygen from, and then we return it all back to the ground. You know, all the big cycle. Okay? Big cycle of life. All right, last slide for the day. Oh, nothing. Just said that. Fix nitrogen gas into a usable form. Bioremediation. The use of bacteria to break down pollutants. Do you know where your trash goes? After it leaves the trash can, gets put in the truck goes to a landfill somewhere. A big deep hole in the ground where they dump everybody's trash into. When that landfill gets full, and they're going to cover it back up with dirt, before they cover it, they spray back certain bacteria all over it. Right? They cover it with bacteria. Some bacteria they eat plastic. They break the plastic down. Some are used to eat oil. They have bacteria now that if they have an oil spill in the ocean, they can spray that. They collect it. You ever seen them collect it with the little buoys around it? They spray it with bacteria, and the bacteria eats the oil, and it goes away. All right? Helps to get rid of pollution. Right? Clean up oil spills. Biodegradable materials. That's your water bottles, Coke bottles, the hard plastics that don't break down naturally. Right? You can bury a water bottle in the ground, come back 10 years later and dig it up, it'll still be there. Right? Put some of this bacteria on it, it eats that plastic. Turns it into stuff that the ground can absorb and that other organisms can use. Make sense?